While we're on this, I just wanted to make a little confession.
What have you done?
What
have you bought?
How do you know I've bought something?
Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Alexis Blake.
And I'm Liam Blake.
And welcome to episode 6 of our
the
podcast. The Blake Debate. That was a bit stuttery.
Never mind.
Never mind. We'll do better next time. Hope you guys are well. If you're new here, hi, I'm a trans woman. I share my life stories and opinions on social media. And me and Liam do a podcast together.
Yeah, so today's episode, we decided we're going to keep it a little bit shorter.
A little bit lighter.
A bit lighter. So today's episode, it's a little bit more light-hearted. It's probably going to be a little bit shorter. Yeah. And we're just going to answer some questions that are the most Googled questions about trans people.
I was Googling something the other day and it just said trans in the title, and all of these like suggestions popped up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, people Google these things. I think that's so interesting. So I thought,
if you ever type in like what
anything,
why do I, it'll just
all the most suggested ones. So we're gonna answer those as well. But don't we have like a cool little announcement? Spotify.
Oh yes, so a lot of people were asking us about this podcast being available in like audio only format, and I finally got around to putting it on Spotify. So all episodes up until this episode will be on there as
if
of now.
you want to listen.
We've had 29 plays so far.
29 plays. Winning. Thank
the most
you, guys.
popular episode was the Dylan Mulvaney and the Blair White
the
podcast.
One.
Yeah, that's been the most popular one. But so it's available on there. I will be putting it on Apple Podcasts and also on YouTube Music thing when I can figure it out. One thing at a time. So should we get straight into the questions? So we're going to answer these quickly, aren't we? These are just going to be quick fire.
Yeah.
Then we've got a couple of questions we're going to go in a little bit more detail with.
Yeah.
Followed by the your guys'
questions at the end.
Q&As. Yep.
I've got no extensions in today, and I feel a bit like I'm missing a piece of clothing or something. Like I forgot to put a top on, as silly as that is. I know it sounds stupid.
Well, you didn't forget to put a top on because it's there.
No, I know, but because I'm not used to all this hair normally. This is just me. So anyway, sorry, back to it. Are you ready? I'm going to ask you.
Are you asking me?
I'm going to put transgender and see what these.
You're going to ask me these?
Yes. Can transgender women have periods?
No.
Correct.
Ding, ding, ding.
Can transgender women get pregnant?
No.
Unfortunately not. Wish I could. Can transgender men get pregnant?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
You had to think then. Can transgender men menstruate?
Yes.
Well, yeah, because if they can get pregnant, they generally wouldn't menstruate. Can transgender women get breast cancer?
I think anyone can get breast cancer.
Yes, that is true. I have to start getting, I found this out the other day. Sorry, completely coming off topic, but you know where the squishy booby?
Mammogram?
I don't that yeah. I have because I now have breast tissue. I have to get one of those those in my life, and I literally said, someone told me, I was like, well, what's inside it? Pop. She was like, no, I'm sure it won't. I know, sorry. Anyway, back to it. Can transgender people join the army?
I think so. I think so. I would like to think so. I know they abolished I know women can go on the front line now, as of about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So
no, I think transgender people can. Yeah. I think as long as you pass the medical and the physical.
I think that's the limiting factor now. Is the medical is the most hardest thing to pass.
The physical tests and stuff.
Because I know back in the day they used to have a don't ask, don't tell policy in the army for gays, lesbians, and stuff.
For sexuality.
You weren't allowed in there if you were gay or lesbian, but you just basically kept it shum. If you were, you were, and that's
awful, isn't it?
It is awful, but I mean, it's better than not being allowed in at all. Well, but if you were discovered while I think that's a whole other thing.
You could get
anyway.
Discharged.
I think you could,
discharge if
they
found out.
Yeah,
that's so crazy. Yeah.
Hey everyone, Future Liam here. So I noticed while editing, Alexis left out, conveniently so, can transgender women have sex? I'm going to let you into a little secret. Yes. Right, back to the podcast. Right, so these are what come up if you type is transgender.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Is transgender genetic?
Yes, I would say it is. Yes, it's you're born that way. Like, I'm weird. No, don't do it. It's like sexuality. It's just how you are, who you are. It's how you're born. You remember that study that I showed you a while ago?
Which one? You showed me so
much
stuff.
It was a study with, I think it had 200 trans people in it, and they did MRI scans of the brains.
The brain thing,
and they compared transgender people's brains to non-transgender people's brains. And transgender women like myself, my brain would match closer to a biological female brain than a biological male brain.
I think it was like brain scans
It was to try and like
look,
do trans people's like thought patterns and processes and brain waves align up more with the gender that they feel like rather than or versus the gender that they're born as. And it did, and I thought that was really interesting. So it's kind of like the brain works different. We'll link it below if you want to have a read. It's very interesting.
I'm saying that though,
if I can find it.
And I mean, I'm going to try and say this in the least offensive way possible, but gosh. I'm going to try. So, yeah, because it's weird, because some people believe that obviously sexuality is a choice and that it's not genetic or it's not inside. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So people are born with things that the average person doesn't have. So you might have someone who's born with an extra finger. Like my brother had an extra finger when he was born.
Did he?
Yeah, he had a little finger like attached at the bottom there. Like it didn't have a bone in it, but it had a little fingernail on it. Yeah, he had it removed and stuff at birth.
I was say, does he have it now? I've never noticed.
No. But I'm not comparing transgenderism to extra limbs, but the point is our bodies in the womb, things can develop and change or not be as it should be. And I find it interesting.
Is it like genetic mutations? Is that what it's called?
It sounds dramatic, but basically, a genetic mutation. So I just find it interesting that some people, because they can see an extra finger, they believe that you can be born with an extra finger, but yet they can't. They will stand there and go, no, transgenderism isn't real, it's a choice. But why couldn't you be born with the wrong brain? Like the wrong, in like your brain is female.
Doesn't align with
it doesn't
the
align
body.
with your body.
I would say 2 reasons.
Okay.
First reason, people believe what they can physically see and touch and understand because that's way easy to grasp. And I'd say the second reason is people struggle to relate to sexuality such as gay and lesbian. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here, by the way. For sexuality and transgender, people struggle to relate to it and understand it because maybe they haven't seen it a lot in their life. In popular culture, social media, they won't know anyone who is. And they haven't been brought up around it, so it's harder to understand something that you haven't been taught about.
It's interesting though, because you get a lot of DMs from people sometimes from like religious groups.
Yeah.
And they'll message you and say...
Of course, not all religious people who message me
of course, no,
come at me in a bad way.
But just for this example,
yeah,
you'll have a religious person, which you've had from DMs before, saying that you're committing sin and that you'll be able to be forgiven and blah, blah, blah. But so this person or these people that message you these negative things don't believe that transgenderism is real, or that at very least it's a sin. But you can't see God or religion, but they believe that. And I find that interesting that they believe God is real and their religion is the right thing to do. Analogy, but they don't believe that you are.
Again, though, is it devil's advocate here? Yeah. That's faith versus what goes against their beliefs, because they live their lives guided through the Bible if they're Christian and whatnot. It depends how they interpret it, how their congregation interprets it. There's so many factors going into it, and I think it's a difficult one. But I get kind of where your analogy is coming from.
I'm not the best at analogies, but
I thought that was good.
Anyway, that's another kettle of fish, isn't it? Right, next one. Is transgender taught in schools? UK, specifically?
Yes, I believe so now. When I was in school, no.
No, when I was
it wasn't taught. I think the basics around gay people was taught and lesbians, but nothing to do with trans, as far as I remember.
The only sex education I remember at school was in RE of all sessions.
Bad.
It was very
so
basic.
Bad, yeah. I think now they do cover it a little bit. I'm assuming they do it age sensitive. So
I would imagine. So. I think it's on the curriculum. I'm sure it is.
To know about different types
specific.
Of families. I think like my 9-year-old nephew, for instance, I believe he's been taught that there are different types of families.
Yeah, some people have 2 mums, 2 dads.
And then they just, as they get older, they would learn more. I think it's a hard one of knowing what to be taught and when, or what children can and can't understand. But I sort of think it's good for them to have some knowledge. So if they grow up different or unique, or they maybe meet someone's family who has 2 mums, they'll have an understanding of why, rather than it being a shock to them. Or like if they discover something about themselves, their sexuality is different, it won't be a bigger surprise.
I think when I was growing up as a kid, it was more shocking that a certain man who comes around once a year and brings you things.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, wasn't real. Than I did that Dave down the street had 2 dads or 2 mums, or Dave's mum is now his dad. That wasn't shocking to me. But
really?
But the first part was shocking, and that's interesting because we obviously, a lot of us, we create this make-believe thing for our kids, and I love that whole Christmassy make-believe.
Fictional,
but we create this whole fictional thing, And one day we've got to let them know that it's not. Yeah. But then, like, I know what you're saying, that kids obviously should be taught things, you know, but I think they should be taught things from a younger age, just to ease them in. Age-appropriate teaching.
Yeah.
Not just, you can't tell kids anything about sex or about gay or lesbians until they're 14, because by that point they've probably maybe figured it out or come across it in a more negative light.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I'm rambling again anyway.
I can't believe you told me that. No, you're not rambling. Don't say that. I love listening to you.
Right. Is transgender in the dictionary?
Yes, it will be.
I would
imagine, blooming so.
It's a word, I
think.
We'll
pop it on if it's there.
I think it's there. Is transgender and transsexual the same?
No.
Same.
That's
Makaton. Same.
No.
Or is it different?
It's different.
No?
So cute. They're different. So, as far as my understanding goes, and of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but transgender is an umbrella term that describes someone's gender identity. You not necessarily have transitioned yet, more so. Whereas transsexual, it's a specific medical term where you have or are in the process of transitioning, and generally that involves hormone replacement therapy and surgeries to just varying levels. That's my understanding. But do you know an interesting thing? Well, I think it's interesting.
But you're going to tell me.
I am going to tell you. What's it? I don't know. I have no hair to flick. I'm used to having all this hair and there's nothing there. So transsexual used to be a derogatory terminology, but it's been adapted more and more now by trans people, because technically I'm a transsexual. I'd say I'm more transsexual than transgender, because I am. This is just my understanding.
What's the other word I'm thinking of?
Transvestite.
Right. Yes.
That's just dressing as the opposite gender, I believe.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. But
isn't that what you're doing?
I could smack you. Oh, we
Joking.
went on camera. So yeah, but do you know, like, we have some older gay and lesbian friends. They don't understand how, like, the younger generation of gay and lesbian people are using the word queer to describe their, like, sexuality, their personality.
Well, we've used it before. We've said
we're a queer couple because we're just different. But in their day, when they were younger,
derogatory
it was a derogatory
It's not that they don't understand the term; they just don't like it
because of where it's come from.
And you know, I do get it. I completely get it.
Because I was called that as an insult when I was younger. But I think it's very interesting. So, yeah, there is a difference, definitely.
100%.
Like between transgender and transsexual.
We've just jumped back now. We had some camera difficulties, unfortunately. The battery died because someone had forgot to plug it in to charge. Me.
I'm going to say, don't blame me.
So if there's a little bit of a jump there in terms of the colour accuracy, the zoom levels, I apologise. Right, so what we'll do is we'll jump on to the other questions, which we're going to answer a little bit more detail.
I'm ready.
Yeah. Question 1. What is gender dysphoria?
Basic answer. Gender dysphoria is when what is in here doesn't match what's on the outside, and you feel an innate uncomfortability with what you see in the mirror and how the world perceives you. Boom.
Oh, so do I have dysphoria then? Because like I feel like a supermodel, solid 15 out of 10, but when I look in the mirror, I only see a 6.5 looking back at me. Is that dysphoria?
I think that's Delulu.
What do you mean, Delulu?
I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. You are a 1,000,000 out of 10.
Oh, that's cute. Thank you. While we're on this, I just wanted to make a little confession.
What have you done?
What
have you bought?
How do you know I've bought something?
Because we've been together for 3 years and I know you very well.
Well, you know, I was sad the other day.
Yeah.
Well,
I get sad sometimes as well.
And you do retail therapy, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of bought a PlayStation 5. Well, you can't get mad
because I'm on camera. That's why I can't get mad. That's why you told me right now.
Maybe.
Oh.
Baby, I've not bought myself anything for a long time.
You haven't. You deserve it. You work hard. But I don't understand why, because you already have an Xbox and a big fancy...
What's it called? That box gaming
thing?
PC.
Yeah.
Well, it's a PC... Because there's games that I can't play on them. Anyway, moving on.
Yes, moving on. What is the difference between sexual orientation and gender identity? Quick go.
Right. So, sexual orientation is... The best way I can describe it, and I've read this somewhere, this is not my quote, is sexual orientation...
Yeah.
Is who you go to bed with, and sexual identity is who you go to bed as.
Do you want to throw something else in the mix?
Go on.
Some people, when they transition, their sexual orientation can change.
Yeah, well...
It has been known.
Yeah.
Like, Gigi Gorgeous,
we said this
she was a gay man before transition, and then she transitioned, and now she became a lesbian, but now she met a woman, they got married as two women, and now her wife is transitioning to male, so now it's
right, I've lost it. Well, we said this really before in our discussions of our relationship, that we just kind of, we are who we are, we just
that's a Kesha song.
Is it? We just do us, don't we? We don't really sit into any kind of category because
who needs labels?
I always say labels are for clothes, and I don't think we need to. But people. That
was a good analogy. Whoever quote that was that you stole was really good.
I definitely stole it from someone, but basically your sexual identity and your sexual identity, that's the same thing. Your sexual identity and your sexual orientation are separate things, but they can align.
They can overlap but
they're different, basically.
Very interesting.
Right, next question.
Yes.
What does it mean to be transgender?
What does it mean to be transgender? Transgender is an umbrella terminology. Transgender is when how do I say this? You're born and the gender that you feel on the inside doesn't align with what's on the outside.
Right, okay, yep.
Basic as I can figure out how to say it. So I was born a boy and I didn't feel like that. So I was transgender because it didn't align. And then now some people will class me as a transsexual.
Assigned at birth.
Yes. Yeah. And some people now would call me a transsexual because I have medical transition with hormones and surgeries.
Okay.
What is the difference between transgender and being gender non-conforming?
Okay, so gender non-conforming is where you may wear or do things that don't align with the stereotypical things that people would expect of your gender. So, for example, if you're a man, you might want to wear skirts, and skirts are certainly not the time now considered a male thing. Traditionally, back in the day, there might have been. I think they were in Greece, especially, and obviously Scottish. You have kilts. You, as a man, you may wear makeup. You may do feminine things. You may paint your nails. You may not like the typical man things like rugby and cars and guns and angry things. You might be quite feminine, but you still might just assign yourself. You might be a straight man who just likes feminine things.
Okay.
So you don't conform to the stereotypical norms that your gender would expect. Whereas what was the other thing? I forgot now.
Transgender and gender non-conforming.
Yeah, so transgender is where you don't feel the correct gender. What you've just been talking about.
Yeah.
You don't feel the correct gender that you were born or you were assigned at birth with. So you will do everything. You will do things in your power, again, stereotypically, to affirm your gender. So if you was male and you were transitioning to female and you was a transgender woman, you may wear makeup, grow long hair, wear skirts and beautify yourself up. Stereotypically, again, is what a woman would do, but that you would do that to affirm your gender, whereas someone who's gender non-conforming isn't doing it to affirm their gender. Because they're comfortable in their own gender, their own sexuality. They just maybe like...
Are you a scientist?
No, I'm not a scientist. But basically, that's my explanation of it.
Do you remember when we went to a Pride one year, saw a couple, they just looked like a straight couple, man and woman, and he was wearing a skirt and a top, and I don't think he was trans. I don't think he was bi or anything like... I don't think he had... I think he just wanted to wear a skirt and a female top.
It was
like
so
cool, and that was one of the only things that shocked me.
What them tops called? It just
crop top. Yeah, and it really shocked me. Like not a lot can shock us now. I think we've seen quite a lot in our life, but that surprised me in a good way. That I was like, okay, he's just a straight man by the looks of it, and he just wants to wear that. And I was like, that's really cool. Shall we answer some questions from?
Yes, so
you guys.
This is the part of the show where we answer questions from you guys. Show podcast. I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
You ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
Scotty123, hello, asks, if you were both woke up in a zombie apocalypse, what would your weapon of choice be and why? Face.
Okay, so for me, The Last of Us,
the TV show
and the game. Joe, the main character, I would have his rifle.
Me too.
I'd have his rifle.
Yeah. Why?
Just because it's really powerful and it seems to do him well enough.
That's what I'm thinking too.
No, you weren't. You have to choose something.
That was what I was thinking.
I don't believe it was.
You answered first. You took mine.
What would you have?
I would run and scream.
Well, like, don't scream because that'll.
I'd have a rocket ship so I can get away from Earth.
Okay, where are you going? Which other habitable planet are you going to?
That's the next part of the plan that I'm working on now.
Right, okay.
So you'll have to come back to me on that one.
Right. Next question is from Rule_Britannia 2142.
Hello.
This is aimed at you.
All right. Okay.
As a trans woman, do you worry about your safety, or does Liam worry about your safety? Oh, so it's both of us. For those of you don't know, transgender women are statistically at much higher risk of violence than many other demographics. Do tragedies like Brianna Gray's affect your behaviour, like stop you from going out, or just make you more hyper aware of your surroundings?
Ooh. Heavy. Yes, I am more aware. I think it's also partly being, I don't want to offend anyone with how I'm going to phrase this, so please bear with me. But going out there as a man, I felt much safer than now. And that's changed as well, because at the start of my transition, I was visibly trans and I felt unsafe. And then now I'm not visibly trans, but I'm seen, I guess, as strange as a woman for the most part. I still feel unsafe, much more so than when I was
But is that because generally women can feel unsafe?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So I can I can relate to that feeling.
Yeah.
Like going into just a nightclub, for instance, and when someone like.
Well, you've had men inappropriately.
Yeah, and that I'd never had before, and it was a big surprise. So I do, and I wouldn't go out on a night on my own. I wouldn't walk down the street on a night on my own, and I'm more thoughtful and cautious like that. Basically,
I am always hyper aware anyway. I'm not a big drinker. Has been, when I go out, not anymore. Don't get me wrong. When I was younger, I did, but for the last 4 or 5 years, I've not been a massive drinker. I'd much rather have one pint, not even a pint. Sometimes
I just don't like waking up the next day and not feeling well. That's the worst feeling.
But going to the question, I like to be hyper focused and hyper aware. So when we are out together, I always like to think I'm very aware of the surroundings and what's going on.
I feel very safe when I'm very lucky that I have Liam, and when we go out, I feel very safe.
But I was like that even before you transition. But I think I am aware that there is a higher risk for women or / transgender women. Yeah,
definitely. And what happened to Brianna Jai was awful, and I have briefly spoke about that, but it's awful.
The final question is from Janice Burnett Holler 2206. Hello.
Holla.
Maybe this is too personal, and if it is, I am. Please accept my apologies. Sorry. I was wondering what kind of costs would there be for a person who wanted to transition?
Okay.
Can you receive assistance through medical insurance or the government? I live in Canada and have known people that have required a GoFundMe account to be set up. Again, this is if it's an inappropriate question, I do apologise. Hugs from Canada. Now, obviously, this is UK related. If we
I can't answer for Canada, but for the UK, I hate this phrase so much, but it is true. How long's a piece of string? It depends on the person. It depends on what surgeries they want / need for the transition. It's really hard to say. Mine is now definitely in the 5 figures. I'll say that. And I'm not quite done yet.
But we've done private, haven't we? So.
Some of it private, and then some of it I've got on through private healthcare through work more recently. It's really hard to say. I'm really sorry. I know that's not the answer you wanted, but a lot of trans people do set up GoFundMe.
I mean, there isn't a one answer fits all for that. No. It's very specific to you as a person who might be transitioning, depending on the kind of gender affirming surgeries you may or may not want. Some people might be lucky and not want or need them, so therefore their whole entire cosmetic surgery bill might just be maybe breast augmentation, and
or maybe nothing. Some transgender women don't get it, so it's hard.
They'll get everything, God knows, to man, BBLs at lot and spend $100,000. It's very much tailored to you.
And like the NHS, you can get a lot of like the hormones and the diagnosis and everything done on that, but that's a long waiting time, and it's if you're willing to wait and things like that does come into play, which I didn't want to wait any longer because I'd waited 15 years, so I didn't want to wait another 4 years for it. So it's really hard to say, but like I said, mine's probably in like the 5 sort of figure range. I think we worked out recently, and
it's cost me a pretty penny anyway. Which is why
I
bought myself a PS5.
Pretty penny. Right, okay, let's call it there.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this kind of content, don't forget to
like and subscribe.
You can also catch the podcast on
Spotify
and maybe soon
Apple Music and YouTube as soon as I get it sorted.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. It'll just be me on my own. Thank you. Bye. Woo!
Woo!
So I put my hands up, play my song, butterfly fly away. Not in my head like moving my hips like I watched that film the other day. Such a good film. Bye.